Hello everyone, my name is Lily. I am a scientist, I'm an engineer, and I'm also a professional tarot reader of over 10 years. So one of the common questions that I get asked ever since I even started reading tarot was, how does tarot work? How does this work? And this has been a really interesting question to me as well, because as a scientist and an engineer, I want to know how things work. And when I progressed in my studies, especially as I started to take higher levels of physics, you kind of reach the fringe elements of what we know about science. And as you understand more and more about the body of work that mankind has made, you begin to realize just how little we actually know. There's a lot of things in the world that we don't know. In fact, there are more things about reality that we don't know than we do know. And that was something that always inspired me about science. It got me excited to go to college, and I'm currently pursuing my doctorate. So, the pursuit of knowledge is something that I think is really interesting. And the fact that humans don't know everything is something that I find very fascinating and inspiring. So, I'm going to talk about some of the secular explanations that people have tried to come up with to explain the phenomenon that is giving and receiving a tarot reading, right? Not all of these explanations fully explain what happens, right? It's not just a one solution that explains the entire situation. So I want you to take all of these with a grain of salt, and of course, have your own thoughts and your own opinions about the matter. So, the first secular explanation that I want to talk about is the placebo effect. And this is when a belief is so powerful that it can have real world results. We see this, the placebo effect is actually studied, but its actual mechanics, how it occurs, is a mystery to science. But we see the placebo effect like in clinical trials or clinical studies where they tell participants, yes, you are getting this medicine that will cure your migraine, but they're really just getting like a sugar pill. And because the participants genuinely believe in the efficacy of the medication, when they take the placebo, their migraine will go away. You see this, people are healed by somewhat miraculous means, right? And some of the research articles that I read about the placebo effect have actually cured like depression, anxiety, sleep apnea. I mean, there's just been some really fascinating studies on the power of the placebo effect. Now, when it comes to tarot, some people say, okay, well, just the act of believing in tarot is a form of a placebo effect. And while I certainly think that that is an interesting idea, however, it does not account for all of my experiences. A huge number of my clients are skeptics. A huge number of my clients actually have no belief in tarot whatsoever. In fact, they genuinely resist it. And yet, somehow, we're still able to bring, healing or clarity or insights or have a transformative experience. And while I think the placebo effect may be present in some cases, it certainly doesn't explain all cases, and it doesn't explain all phenomenon or all people who come to get a tarot reading. Now, this theory is a little bit more nuanced and there's not a lot of science to back it up, but essentially, the idea behind the ink blot test is to say, is a theory that our subconscious communicates in like dreams and artwork and archetypes. And just like when you look up at a cloud and you make shapes out of the cloud, like that looks like a dog and that cloud looks like a dragon, some people think that you do the same projection with the randomness that are tarot cards. And each card has an archetype in there that prompts our subconscious to be able to communicate with our conscious brain about profound insights and healing and clarity. Now that is also really interesting, and unfortunately, though, the base of knowledge that we have on our subconscious versus our conscious brain is very weak, and I find it very unconvincing. I think that that might be an explanation that works for some people, but the science is very lacking on that explanation. Now, some people talk about intuition, and a lot of people say that they have psychic intuition or natural intuition when you go to a tarot reader. And I tried to find some research on intuition, and neuroscience has done some research, but it seems to be very emerging at the moment, right? They kind of call intuition a form of rapid unconscious processing. So there's an interaction between our unconscious and our conscious elements of our brain. However, that field is still very much in the exploratory phase, and there's very, very little science to back that up. So one might say, I don't think psychology is going to give us the answers to what is going on in a tarot reading, and I would agree. I think that psychology is still a very new science. I think that there is still a lot to be learned in the realm of psychology, and maybe that's my bias because I'm an engineer for a passion with physics, but I did not find anything in psychology that I thought gave a meaningful and resounding explanation to the phenomenon that I encounter when I get tarot readings. And I don't want to make this video, too heavy on physics or math, but if you guys are interested, I'm happy to do that. But I did find some fringe theories that talk about kind of the boundaries of what we know about physics, and some people combine those to try to come up with explanations for the phenomenon that's happening in a tarot reading. Another topic where philosophy and physics intersect is the concept like conservation of energy. Is a physics concept. Matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed, so it really suggests an interconnectedness through energetic forces in the world. Another very interesting physics theory is called entanglement. It's a theory in quantum physics that proposes a interconnected quantum reality. It very much challenges our classical notions of separateness. In essence, entanglement is basically where they, take two particles and they separate them by large distances, and if you do something to one particle, the other particle will react in kind. And when it comes to the philosophy of tarot, or trying to understand how we are connected to the information in the universe, some people theorize that that kind of entanglement is we're using tarot as a conduit or a tool to reflect the energies or the things that are happening in our life in other objects around us. Again, these are leaps. These are leaps. These are theories. These are, brainstorming ideas. None of these things have been fully researched. These are just the secular explanations that I have heard over the years. And while all of those secular explanations are very interesting, and I think they'd be worth exploring, we can't ignore the strong link between tarot and therapy. And while I am not a therapist, the therapeutic applications of tarot have been very profound and well documented. Many of my clients have left me comments and reviews talking about the therapeutic healing of experience that tarot can be. So while I find the secular explanations of tarot very interesting and intriguing, I also see that they're all very lacking, and we really don't have a good explanation for what's going on or what's occurring in a tarot reading. Now, before we wrap up on this very interesting discussion topic that I actually feel like I could make a lot more videos exploring this in more depth, I want to talk about my personal experience, why I even do tarot to begin with, and why do I even bother with this? So why do I still do it? It's because tarot helps people. I have never seen such a profoundly intense tool as tarot. And to some people, tarot is like having a supernatural spiritual experience without taking any drugs. I mean, it can be very, very potent. You know, I've seen tarot give peace and closure to people who are suffering in heartbreak. I've seen tarot give support and hope to those who are mourning, who are struggling and trying to come to terms with their grief. I've used tarot in couple sessions, right? And I've watched couples deepen their bonds together through the act of getting a tarot reading, like deepen their bonds and emotional love for one another. So there's no denying that something is happening. There's no denying that people are experiencing something. I've been doing tarot for 10 years now professionally. That being said, it's still undeniable that I have had experiences that feel supernatural, that feel beyond the realm of what I understand as reality. Something significant is happening when I read tarot, and I cannot pinpoint exactly what that phenomenon is. Now, is it just some more elaborate, complicated form of the placebo effect, or is it some, realm of consciousness that science hasn't discovered yet, or is it, a reflection of quantum, entanglement on our lives and the reality around us? I don't know. Those are all very interesting secular theories and conversations that I can have, but at the end of the day, I don't have an explanation. I don't know. Because my opinion at the end of the day is, if I'm helping people, does it matter? Does it matter? Because to me it doesn't. To me it doesn't. And I used to feel very stigmatized, in telling people that I read tarot, especially because, like, I'm an engineer and I'm a scientist and I love physics and math, and I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to fit into a certain mold and stereotype. And I disagree with that. In 2024, as much as our ego of mankind, we like to think that we're the smartest, we're far from. We're far from. And we're not at the pinnacle of scientific discovery in 2024. There's still so much to uncover. So much of our current knowledge is lacking in all fields of science.